Kanakan Elementary School is a rural school located in Barangay Tamugan, Kalinan, Davao City. It is 22 kilometers from Kalinan proper and approximately 39 kilometers from Ateneo Senior High School. From Kalinan proper alone, it takes approximately an hour to get there. Half of the road was going uphill and not concrete, requiring you to ride a tricycle meant to go uphill in what the locals would call an umbak. The production team's budget took a toll in commute alone, ranging from 200 to 300 pesos per head, back to back. The production team goes to the first interview, an elementary student. Let's find out how she feels about their current school's materials, facilities, and classrooms.
Mayong buntag. So, unsa mong pangalan?
Reniel Kate Umbos.
Unsa man kinatawag sa imo, Renil or ang Kate?
Okay.
Kate. Kate pagbasa. Ay ako dai si Ate Kim. Ikan ko from Ateneo de Davao University, grade 11 student, UMSPO student. Unsa imong mga napansin or na-obserbahan gikan grade, diba, gikan man ka grade 1 diri, unsa imong marag improvements sa inyong school?
Nagbago siya.
Nagbago? Mas gwapo karon.
Oo. Kay sa una dito pa sa babaw sa una, wala pa ni diri
So dito mo sa babaw gas kila sa grade 1 ka.
Opo.
Tas natukod ni na building grade
4 katong pa.
Grade 4, so naga-module pa ka.
Opo.
Diba, anak ka ganina na isa lang ka classroom ang grade 5 o grade 6. Murag, dili siya lisod or unsa ba? Like, nahati man inyong time? Dili okay lang? Sige. Inyong transportation, taga-unsa mo, kinahatod mo?
Ako lang, mag-drive.
Motor? Okay. Pero ikaw jud ang ka-drive.
Opo.
Ikaw ang nakabalo.
Oo.
Okay. Ano mong mga challenges or mga kalisod na na-experience?
Kanang dili kay nako masabtan.
Dili kayo nang masabtan na module, no?
Opo.
Iguro jud ka mag-answer, no? Kompleto man maglibro dari ano?
Opo.
Na mga nag-add to dari ana ka ng, let's say, nag-donate or naghahatag sa inyong mga school supplies and all?
Atong sa una.
Sa una, karon na nagbalik mo face to face, wala na? Wala pa.
In the first interview, it seems that the student is content with their learning experiences as a rural student in Kanakan Elementary School. But what if this is not the true case? In the students' answers, there hides the challenges that are yet to be uncovered by the production team. So, the production team goes to the next interviewee, a high school teacher in the area. Let's see what the teacher has to say about their learning experiences.
Na learning materials, we don't have the books, we don't have any resources. Firstly is the learning materials. Next is the school facilities. We don't have any buildings. Before we use the classroom of elementary because high school don't have any buildings. And third is the electricity. And before, way back 2017, we don't have supplies of water. My students have to fetch water far from our place. Before pandemic, as a teacher, hayahay siya gamay kay check lang. But the long run, sige mig-check. Kanagong ang ending, ang ilang inabot sa mga bata is copy-paste na lang sa answers sa likod sa module. Kay ano lang man modular. And then, after 2 years of pandemic, Ang effect niya is the students are maglisod og sabot, especially labi sa akong grade 7 noon. Last nila ng eskwela kay grade 4. So ilang batasan is pang elementary gihapon. Even ang ilahang mastery og ilagong level of comprehension pang elementary. So I have to step down on their level para lang kami mag-meet during class discussion. Yeah, most of them are non-readers. Maglisod og basa. Kay maglisod magbasa, so maglisod pud og sabot sa mga topic. Ano siya.
So, speaking of that, ma'am, ano yung mga challenges ng mga students in terms of learning po, ma'am, as a...
So far ako makuan is level of understanding yun nila, ilang comprehension. Kaya kanang, for example, na English lang nga term, kanang kinahanglan pa nila tutukan or di kaya naapay mag-explain sila or mag-vernacular para lang ilahang masabtan. Or usahay po kanang maglisod sila lang ang mag-study. Kinahanglan gid na ay kuan. Kanang sa siya ay help with us teachers. Dili itong pwede sila hands-on, kinahanglan gid sila guidan every step of the Di man gid malikayan nga di mo ma-provide. So ang ginabuhat sa teachers, sila ang naga-provide kuot og bulsa para lang ma-provide. Labi na before, wala man mi building, wala mi budget. So kami teachers ang nagakuan ilang papel, ballpen, pang crayon, pang arts nila. Ana siya. Kami nag-provide before.
After hearing from the side of the rural education sector, we will now find out about the other side of the story, the government sides on why these inequalities are faced by rural schools.
Not that being in a classroom would give them much of one. Concerned educators say a lack of investment has hurt standards. The Philippines spends just 2% of its gross domestic product on education. The World Bank recommended amount is 6%.
There are certain areas where we have been unable to provide enough resources in terms of classroom and some of the basic resources for education, classrooms, textbooks, teachers.
One of Doe-Eyed Productions team member, Kimi Valdres, will synthesize and reflect on her experiences after going to a rural public school.
We filmmakers encountered our very first challenge, and it was our travel journey. The only transport there was a tricycle that the locals would call umbak. Because the road was not concrete and uphill, it was difficult. Even if the travel length by kilometer isn't that long, the travel was still a challenge. When we got there, we were met by a very warm and welcoming approach. Even though we were the ones that needed information from them, they entertained our intentions. They really exceeded our expectations. But behind those positivity, there lies the educational challenges they face. Firstly, we were told that they had no electricity available. The elementary students didn't have a fan, but the high schoolers do. Yet, they cannot still use it because of no electricity. Second, based on our student interviewee, we found out that grade 6 and grade 5 students share one classroom. This is a challenging part for the teachers because they have to separate their lectures between grade levels in one classroom. Speaking of teachers, we also found out that it is unavoidable for teachers to solely provide materials for their students. Our teacher interviewee said that they are challenged in educational materials and they rarely receive actions from the government. So they have to provide the students using their own money. Even a piece of paper, teachers have to provide it. Another thing we found out is in Kanakan Elementary School, there are only 5 teachers in all, and these teachers teach 170 students. Meanwhile, Kanakan High School has 4 teachers, making them all class advisors. Speaking of the government, the teacher we interviewed said that the school is newly established, and that's why actions from the LGU rarely happen. The teachers did follow this up with them receiving a lot of donations during Brigada Eskwela season. But in bitter truth, donations are not sustainable for them. Overall, being a school in a rural area with limited accessibility, the challenges they go through with the lack of resources. What can we do for them? Unsay pwede mabuhat?
In light of that, the filmmakers expresses 3 advocacies regarding their thoughts on the issue.
First, improved roads should be a top priority for rural areas. Improving rural roads enable better access of people to services and resources. Government help would be much more efficient, increasing the students' opportunity to access basic necessities and educational materials. And teachers won't have to use their own money just to provide for their students.
Second, rural schools should be equipped with electricity. As rural schools tend to have no electricity, students in a tight and filled room get hot. Having no electricity gives both the students and teachers health problems. Additionally, having no lights affect their sights when studying, especially when it gets dark. Lastly, equipping the schools with electricity will encourage technology use. Technology use in rural schools would help them provide better learning and teaching experiences.
Lastly, facilities in rural schools should be enhanced. Building more classrooms and facilities for rural schools improves the students' learning experience by gaining access to water and electricity, as well as having adequate facilities that can assist their learning. More classroom means space for the students, so they won't be forced to share a classroom between 2 classes. Schools can now accommodate more students, individualizing each class for their own skills. Overall, improved classrooms and facilities provide adequate resources to rural students' needs and safety. Amidst the challenges, Kanakan was able to receive support, receiving a lot of donations during Brigada Eskwela season, but in the bitter truth, donations are not sustainable for them.
So far, ang LGU, wala kayo sila kanagong interaction with us. Especially kaning barangay, asa man na including Kanakan. Kung naaman kay, isa lang ka blackboard, katong tayo mga nabus ang board. And dugay po to siya nagamit kay, dugay siya nasaka, tungod sa kalayo sa among area. Dili kay, kung naamay naghahatag sa donations, more on private donation, private institutions or company or individual. And even kami, everyday magimiga donate. Kung dili man makadawat og donation, sarili yung kwarta mo ginagamit.
Sa mga nag-donate, ma'am, sa usually, ma'am, kanang often ba siya or rare lang kaayo may tabo?
Kana siya, naman may ginatawag nga ADDUvocacy school program, ginabuhat siya every Brigada Eskwela. So, dira na gyud daghan ang donations. Every Brigada Eskwela and balik eskwela.
Gikan sa mga private sectors mostly, ma'am.
Yes.
We, as more privileged students, after experiencing and understanding the situation better, we have come to a conclusion that donations aren't sustainable nor enough for these schools and these children, and especially teachers. In the KES case, donations are their main source of educational support. They cannot ask the teachers to provide another source of income for them, as this would be overworking. How long will donations sustain public schools in general? Are the contributions voluntary or compulsory? If this kind of issue occurs in Davao, a highly urbanized city, what about those third-class and poor provinces?
Lupa